All right, I'm just going to tie a quick rig, and it's a little bit uncouth, but I use it. I use a pulley rig. I like a pulley rig for when I'm off the rocks. You know, you get a bit of weed stuff, and the pulley rig absorbs some of the movement, you know, back and forth tension on the line. Okay, so I'll just tie this on there. This is a 2.0 suicide octopus hook, right? And I put this on the bottom. What I find is I use this for two reasons. I use one to hold down the bait on the pulley rig, and I'll show you the little hook that I use in a minute to actually do that. So I use it to hold down, and then I also put a little glow squid on it. And what happens is quite often is, for some reason, the pinkies will come along and they'll nibble on the bottom on the glow squid, but not the bait. And because it's such a fine entry hook, what happens is, you know, if they've been picky, that sort of thing, what happens is they'll pick, and then all of a sudden it'll be bang, 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 bang. And what happens is they foul hook themselves on the little hook that's on the bottom, because they just go the glow squid instead of the big gigantic bait there. Just gonna nip this off. Right, so I'll just snip that off. Put that through there. Come on, go through. Don't tell me you haven't cut it enough. Stab a hole in it. Yeah, so it'll just float. It just floats around, and I've never had the 2.0 go. You could probably use 3.0 if you wanted to, but I've never had a 2.0 go. I'm not fishing that heavy. I quite often fish 30-pound braid off the rocks, because, you know, if I don't like catching stingrays. If I accidentally catch one, do you know what? I want to get it in, and I want to get it back in the water and gone, rather than sitting there fighting a stingray on 15 pound or something, 20 pound. I just want to get it in and back in the water and gone, and you know, the bait back in the water for the snapper or mulloway. Okay, so what I'm going to do too is I will later on probably do a bit of a demo on using a different type of rig one of my mates showed me that I learned off him, putting live baits on, and it's they just stay alive, you know, once they're on. They don't die quick. They stay alive for ages. And there's, you know, there's different ways to rig up a live bait as well, depending on whether you want it to swim away, and you know, sometimes you just want a live bait to swim away from you. Okay, so there's the 2.0 rigged up with the squid underneath it. I'll try and push it on a little bit more later on. Right, but that glows up, and that's a bit of an attractor. So what I'm going to do is, I think this is a 7.0 octopus, and I'm going with what the boys do down south. Okay, so this is just your standard octopus, and I'm being brutal. Now, I don't need to get too excited with this snell, because what happens is that it can't go anywhere because the bottom hook is tied on with a uni knot. So uni knot, I'm using 60 pound. I use 60 pound so I can get the trace through the small hook on the bottom for this particular rig. If you're fishing in vicious reef, you probably, you know, go right up if you can and get rid of the little hook. Then what I've got is a circle on the top, which is what the boys use down south. Now a circle hook is an automatic hook, and normally they need to hinge, but what happens is they still seem to do quite well. So what happens is if your pinky's like fully dobbed the bait and gone up past that one, the J hook, this hook here, this is an automatic hook, so you can see the barb points in, so it doesn't hook on reef, etc. Very easily, and it can be quite good, productive to actually put a circle on the bottom if you're in quite reefy ground and you don't want to just hook the reef all the time. And what happens is the fish comes along like this, they grab the bait and they turn. They literally turn, and this here hooks the jaw line. So what you have with like mulloway, they've got really bony mouths, and in having really bony mouths, you've got to have sharp hooks to make sure it penetrates inside the mouth. But with a circle hook, you need less. You know, the real circles, the real automatic hooks, they don't even have blunt points on them, sharp points on them. They have blunt points, and it hooks the jaw line, and you're guaranteed to hook around that jaw hinge pretty much every time. And that can be advantageous where you've got a rod sitting in a rod holder, and yeah, the fish comes along, grabs the bait, chews on it. The gape's quite big, so you can get it through the top of the body or through the eyes, etc. And you get an automatic hookup when that fish grabs the bait. Different situations have lighter drag and heavier drag. Yeah, I'm fishing with pinkies. I just like to have my drag sort of set so that it's heavy enough that it will self-set on the fish. I don't like to have it too light, whereas if I'm in protected waters, I prefer to have a lighter drag, you know, in the river for, say, mulloway, because they can be really fussy. They can be just like brim, you know. They'll just put the bait in the front of their mouth and swim off, and as soon as they feel tension, it just pops out of their mouth and they let it go. They don't come back. So you sort of want one of those. You know, if I'm in the river, I'll use a sliding rig, but we're going to be chasing, I'm going to be chasing pinks in the ocean. So what I want is, I want this rig so that it'll self-set, and I'm not messing around. I'm going to use, you know, I may use a tailor head or something. I've had a lot of fun, a lot of success with tailor heads on snapper. The pickers don't pull them to bits. If you start fishing muleys, you know, and there's a lot of pickers around. Every 5 minutes, you're re-rigging up baits. I'm just looking for the elastic. I like the elastic as well. Some people don't like elastic, but I find that if you wrap elastic up, that the baits last a lot longer in the water. And yeah, so I've just put another glow bead over the top of this as well, because what happens is I'm down at Bustle and I saw something relatively quite unique. In the dark, the herring had collected bioluminescence around their eyes, and they were actually using the glow to pump out light so that they could actually see. It was a bit like having headlamps on either side. Pretty crazy. So that bioluminescence, you know, the dots, snapper seem to like them, and so do mulloway. They'll come in, and you know, once they see that, and especially with a bit of movement, and just check it out, and then they start smelling the bait, and then they just go it. So I'm not doing an overly long rig with this pulley rig. This hangs up the top. I don't want the bait sitting on the bottom. I just find that, especially if you end up using dead baits, that the bait on the bottom, the stingrays can pick them up easier, and I don't like catching stingrays. I don't like catching them. I just like to you know, get pink snapper or mulloway or, you know, other species that are more edible and easier to deal with. I find, you know, stingrays for me aren't a huge challenge. They're, you know, they just, you know, they don't. That's why I love pink snapper. They go nuts. A lot of pink snapper will just go nuts, especially you get that big one, you know, and you just got to hang on. And so okay, so I've got that 6-turn uni in there now. I love uni knots, 80-85% knot, but you know, we're using 60 pound leader, and we're only going to be using 30 pound braid, and then you got your drag. So if you're sort of using 30 pound braid and you set up correctly with snapper, because you're not dealing with massive, you know, fish like GTs and stuff hit really hard. Snapper can hit quite hard, especially on lures, but there's not the same inertia. So you know, I can, with an 85% knot in 60 pound and only fishing a main line, I can actually fish, you know, confident with a 50% drag or higher. And I know that if I want to, I find what I find with mulloway is that people fish heavy drags and they're desperate to try and get the mulloway in quick, but too often the mulloway gets hooked on the outside of the mouth around the sinew, and you know, guys are like, I need to fish heavy so I can get the fish in, and you know, it's sort of a control thing, I guess, something that you tend to let go of a little bit more as you become more experienced. But they'll fish heavy drag and they're putting the pressure on, and the hook comes out of the fish's off that sinew that it's been hooked on the outside, because the mulloway's sort of been playing and it doesn't hook in the jaw. It goes outside and they drop the fish because they're fishing heavy, and they pull the hook through. You know, they drop the fish. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is this here. I got these years ago. I actually bought them in England. They weren't here, and eventually they sort of turned up. But I use this for the bottom hooks. So what I'll do is I sort of use about 1 metre for the bottom half of the pulley rig, something like that. So what I'm doing here is I'll just tie this on. Another uni knot. And really, you know, I see in the UK guys are only tying 3-turn uni knots in heavy line, but you know, it's just one of those things, you form a habit and you just want to go the 6 every time through the loop. So yeah, so the pulley rigs I've grown to like, especially with that bottom hook there. If you want to get a bit of distance, you know, it's one of those tie down rigs where you strap the bait down to this hook here you're seeing on the table. All right, and then okay, do this quite fast. Get that over there. Oh, this is part and parcel of trying to do things, make the video faster, and you end up like to try and move quite quick. So we get that over there, right? And then what I do, get that up tight and put another bead on here, and this is a bit of an absorber, as much it is glow. You got to watch the glows. Anything, you know, it rarely happens. I don't think it's ever happened to me, but you know, you get fish come through, they see the glow and they'll have a bite, and if it's a shark or something, I'm not a big fan of catching sharks either, really. I don't mind a bit of bronzy, a small bronzy, but you know, I'm here to get table fish, and you know, if you spend 20 minutes fighting a tiger, that's 20 minutes you don't have in that bite time catching snapper or mulloway or decent skippy or tailor, salmon. Last year when I was fishing, I was chasing snapper, and the weather picked up a little bit, and all of a sudden I was getting these big tailor and big salmon off the rocks, and I just never expected it. And then the Port Authority kicked us off in the middle of the day, and so I had to shift to another rock wall. Okay, so I'm just tying this on. Whoops. Okay, so, and I didn't get one of those little zip ties, so okay, so I've pulled up that 6-turn uni again. Just test it all. Okay, so this goes on the main line, right? This hook here, so when you do the strap down, this goes center and it hooks onto that hook there. That hooks over the small hook, and then when it pulls up, it pulleys off this and goes up to that rubber bead, and then what happens is that the bait's suspended off the bottom, and it just makes it a bit harder for the rays to get hold of the bait when it's further up in the air. They've got to sort of get on their side, and if there's a lot of water moving around, it actually makes it quite difficult for them. Whereas if there's a dead bait on the bottom or nearly dead bait, then it makes it much easier to vacuum it off the floor than it does in mid-air, so to speak. Just a bit easier. So where are the other sinkers? Okay, so here, this is a little trick someone showed me some time ago. I don't know where I picked it up, but I've put a little zip tie around my grapnels, and they can still come out if you really need to them if they're stuck. But what it means is if there's a lot of swell, that the prongs don't cut, the grapnel doesn't break away before it really needs to. It actually holds on a lot better. So I'm starting to run out of those, and I was going to go and buy some. I've got some more, a couple more somewhere, but I put these small zip ties around my grapnel so that it doesn't break out unnecessarily in the sand. It just holds there. And if you get caught in rocks and you really need to get it out, then the zip tie will just push off, and these will bend, and I just find it a lot better with that cable tie. That's brilliant. So yeah, I think that's about it. Sometimes, yeah, that's about it. So that's the pulley rig, and I'm set up. I've got my rig set up for tomorrow, and I might go and get I think I've got some pool noodle somewhere, and I'll just wrap that up on the pool noodle. And this clip here, these ones, you can buy them here now. I think they've been here about maybe 2 years or something. So with these, what you do is you can just change sinkers, whatever you want. and they just clip on like that, right? They clip on like that, and then that's where your little, then you can see your little hook. So you got your big bait strapped on, but you've got your little hook free, and then you can see here that when the weight's there, right, when the weight's there, I'll just set this up. When the weight's there, that this little hook sits over that, and they work every time, you know. They, with that little hook, they just work every time. You can see how that's clipped. So I've got my grapnel here with my zip tie on it, which goes to my 2.0, which is where the snapper comes along, and it just goes yum 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 yum, has a little nibble at the squid, and then thinking it's going to bypass, because the snapper are quite smart. The small snapper will bash a muley off a hook with their tail and then come back and eat it once it's been bashed off the hook. You know, the smaller snapper, they're pretty switched on. So yeah, I've got that little hook, and you know, you get smaller fish come along and they just have a crack at the little plastic instead of the big bait, and next minute they've snagged themselves in the corner of the mouth with the 2.0 hook, and that's when you know, I get quite a few fish come up, and it's finer entry hook, so it, you know, penetrates into the fish's jaw, you know, into the fish's mouth a lot easier as well, because it's finer entry. And I'm only fishing 30 pounds, so you know, 30 pound with 50% drag is 15 pound drag. You know, I might ramp it up to 20 pound, but it's just not enough drag to actually snap that hook. So you're pretty right all the time with that. And yeah, I think that's about it. So that's sort of the pulley rig that I got set up for my snapper tomorrow. And you know, I'll wrap that up with latex. I've got latex cotton that I use. It comes on quite a big spool, and I love wrapping up my baits, because it means that the pickers can't pick them open, and the bait sits around long enough before the big dog comes along and grabs it and takes off. And so there you go. That's the pulley rig. I'll just reiterate so people can see what's going on here. So once that comes off and hits the water, it actually that's other swivel I've got pulls up, and I think I've got pictures of the pulley rig on my eBay page. But so there you go, pulley rig, snapper with the grapnels, and don't forget the baby cable tie around it, so that when you're fishing in a decent swell, you're not pulling the grapnels off unnecessarily. And thanks very much for viewing.